This is Gemara Sanhedrin, Daf Pei Ches, and all the learning for today should be an incredible zchus. Rafua Shlema for Tinok ben Miriam Ahuva B'siyata Dishmaya. We're holding on Pei Ches and Aleph, and we're actually in the middle of an extremely large tangential discussion. As Rabba picks apart the Braisa, we brought down this din of Rabba for the beginning of the Braisa all the way back. On Peizayin Amid Aleph. On Peizayin Amid Aleph, Rav Papa came along and he had to explain how we could have a potential krisos. We're discussing a Zakin Mamre. We're trying to figure out how there could be something that the Zakin is arguing that could involve the Chiyuv Krisos. So Rav Papa asked Rava said to Rav Papa, go out and learn. And Rav Papa now, from the bottom of Pizayin Amid Aleph, through the entirety of Pizayin Amid Beis, and now it's going to be for the first half of today's Shir, has been going through piece by piece of the Braisa, discussing where we can find in the psukim of Zakin Mamre a potential shayla of karis. It happened to be that it was the first case in which we brought down the din of Iber Shana, a din which mentioned Purim, incredibly on Purim, on the bottom of Peizayin Amid Aleph, which dealt with that depending on how it's darshened up, you could result in a chiyuvei krisos. That was really the answer of the kasha. But now, as always, we continue darshening the Braisa. So we're 4 lines down. Beches Amid Aleph says the Gemara, Divrei Elu Arachin Charamim V'Aktishus. What is this? Arachin that it's plucked to the Ramev Rabbanon. Titzanan Amarich Pachos Mimen Chodesh. Someone who makes a neder to give the erech of a child less than a month old. Rameir Menesi Damach Amarim Loy Amar Klam. It is pointless what you said. Charamim, what are charamim? Plucked to the Ravidu B'Mseir Rabbanon. Titzanan Ravidu B'Mseir Aimer Stam Charamim. Libadek Habayish and Emer Kol Chayim Kodesh Kadoshim Hula Hashem V'Chachamim Ma'imrim Stam Charamim L'Koyin Shenemar Kisod Cherem L'Koyin Shenemar Kisod Cherem L'Koyin Tiach Uzasayim Kin Matam Lemer Kodesh Kadoshim Hula Hashem Shechal Al Kodshei Kadoshim Al Kodshei Kalim It's Chal on both Hektishos B'Plukta Tevelez Ben Yankiv and Rabbanan were 4 lines from the wide lines. Titania Tevelez Ben Yaakov Aimer Afilut Sinura Shalaktish teaches Tevelez Ben Yaakov even a spinning fork that belongs to Haktish Shichasar Ben Adam Lefadaisa requires 10 people to give the value in order to redeem it. Ribis, I think I might have read this wrong yesterday in the original Bryce. I think I might have said ribis. It's ribis as in a rav, as in a machlokes, a dispute. The hashkas saita. So first the drinking of the saita, ribis garufa, and tahiras misaira. Shkas saita, what is that? In the first white line. Beplukta, Rav very sure that's not a mekanelish, someone who warns his wife. Rabbi Eliezer Oimer, mekanal bishnayim umashkal b'idachod. Oyal biatzmi. Rabbi Yeshua Oimer, no. Mekanal bishnayim umashkal bishnayim. Arifa egla plukta. Der Eliezer Rabbi Akiva Ditznan. Says the Braisa. For which part where they measure the corpse to where the closest city is? Rav Eliezer Oimer miti burai. Rav Akiva Oimer mechayta moi. And the truth is, and finally, Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov Magushnas a cholol, and the place that it became a corpse, which is meisavarai, which is from his neck. And we had this Gemara writer. Tahiras mitzaira. What is that? Look to Rav Shimon Rabban. Titznan ein loy boyen yad boyen regel oizin yamyanis ein loy tahira oilamis. You learned in the Mishnah when you have a mitzaira. If Tzaira does not have a right hand, big toe, etc., you cannot become tar because you have to put the ritual, you have to put the waters on his right toe, right thumb, etc. Rav Eliezer, I mean, no, Noislam Makoma, in the place of his thumb or this toe. V'yotzer. Shimon, I mean, Noislam small, V'yotzer put on his left hand. B'sharecha, is that like a shechopeya? Leket, it's not, Shnei Shabal, leket shleisha, inan. Leket shecha, shnayin, Marim, shecha shleisha, inan. Shecha. 1 second, I read that wrong. Go back. Leket is Shnei Shibal and Leket. Shleisha, 2 sheaves, 2 ears. Einay leket. Shecha, Shnei Marim is Shecha, Shleisha Einan Shecha. Val Kulan, Beishamei Oimer, and all the Beishamei says, Shalosh La'aniyim, 3 go to the Aniyim, Va'arba Lebala Blais. Pay up, look to Rishvav Rabbanah, the Tanan Mitzvahs, pay up, Lahafresh Min Hakama, Lo Yifresh, you did not Min Hakama, Yafresh Min Amarim, Lo Yafresh Min Amarin, Yafresh Min Hakri, Ad Shaloi Merachai, until you smooth off the pile. Miracle, once you smooth it off, Meiser, you have to take a Meiser, Meiser, Mishmal, Mrim, Af Mafresh, Minha, Isa. And now we really have a great appreciation of the psukim in the Torah, as we just spent going through all the different psukim and learning up the different machlekes and what it can be referred to. Again, ultimately looking for a case in which a Zaki Mamre could be weighing in on something which can involve a krisus. Now we continue. We're in the middle of the wide lines, and Bechasam and Aleph says the Gemara, Gimel Bate Dinim. The Mishnah listed the process was this 3 Bate Dinim, and the Zaken and his Chevra go to the first, which then goes to the second, and finally culminating in the Lishkas HaGazis. Amar Rav Kahana, Hu Amar Mibiyah Shmua, V'ina Mibiyah Shmua. Says Rav Kahana, if they, the Chachamim, say Mibiyah Shmua, meaning, if both of this Talmud Chacham and the Bezdin don't have a sourced halacha, but rather each repeats it mipia shmua, each one says they heard such halacha inoy nereg, that does not result in this Chacham, the Zakin, becoming a Zakin Mamre. Hoy merkachu be'enai, v'heinoi merkachu be'enai. He says it appears this way, and they say it appears this way. Inoy nereg. For kol shekeinu amr bi ashmua ve'inu imrim kacha yebeinu ve'inu nerik. Ad, when is there yes a zakin mamrei? Shemer kachu be'inai. He says, I think it's like this. Ve'inu imrim, and the Bezdin responds bi ashmua. Then no, they know what the appropriate halacha is. Teida, I'll bring you a raya. Shrei nerek is Hakavya ben Mahalalel. They did not kill Hakavya ben Mahalel, even though the Mishnah in India, as Rashi explains, he testified about 4 different halachas, and he stood by them, even though the Bezdin Agadol disagreed. But the reason is because it doesn't fit the formula that we just explained. Rav Eliezer Omer, no. Still nerag if he follows his own halacha. We can't have such a vast divide in machlekes in Klal Yisrael. Vim taimar, and if you're going to say Vim taimar, ma loy hargos the kavim halal, so why do they kill a kavim halal? So as we saw in the Mishnah, there's 2 steps over here. There's the step of limud, there's the step where the Bezdin argues, then there's the next step, which is the next step that the sage, the chacham, the zaken continues and tells people to follow his halacha. That's the stage that he gets killed. So Kavim and Mahalel did not do that. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, what did the Mishnah say? Zakit says, I said like this, and my friend said like this. Kach lamati, kach lamdu chaveirai. My love. So the Gemara says, this sounds like Shittas Rav Elazar. And then that's a case of Zakim Amri, like Rav Elazar said, Loi. Who answers the Gemara? No. Tashima, continues the Gemara. Three things. Zeira, who's one of the men of Yerushalayim, told me, a husband who cancels his warning. If he's mekanes ishtay not to seclude with a certain man, and he cancels it, it's considered that it is canceled. We turn over to Beichasim Beis. That's number 1. Number 2, Ben Seir Meir Shiratz Aviv Yimaylim Chalai Meichan Lai. For Ben Seir Meir, the parents want to be Meichlin, they can do that as well. And number 3 is what? Zakin Mamre Shiratzu Bezdin Lamachalai Meichlin Lai. If Bezdin wants to say that he is not chayiv, Bezdin could say that. However, when I came next to my friend Shabadarim in the self, Al Shnayim Haidali, on 2, the first 2 they agreed with me, but Al Zakin Mamre Lo Haidali. Kedei Shal Yarba Machlekes Yisrael. They said that no, Zakin Mamre, you cannot forgive them. Why? Because if you do, it's going to increase machlokes. So says the Gemara, clearly not like Rav Kahana, says the Gemara tiyufta, that is indeed a appropriate tiyufta. Continues the Gemara, Tanya, we learned in a brisa. 6 lines down, the first word in line is Be Yisrael, Peichas Amidbis. Amar Rav Yaisi, teaches Rav Yaisi, Mitzchilayim Arbin Machlekes Be Yisrael. Says Rav Yaisi, originally there's not that many machlekes, ala bezdin shel shivan ve'achad yoishvim. But lishkas hagazis, bezdin of 71 sad lishkas hagazis. Shtei bati dinim shel esim shleisha, and there were 2 bati dinim of 23. Echad yishev al pesach harabayis, ve'echad yishev al pesach hazara. Ushar bati dinim shel esim shleisha, and the rest of the bati dinim of 23. Yoishvim b'chol harayis Yisrael. Hotruch hadavar lishol. And what happened if they had to ask a certain shayla? Shayalin mi bezdin shabiran. They asked the bezdin in their own city. Im shamu. They asked the bezdin, and if the local dayanim heard the correct halacha, amrulem, they would tell them. Vim lav, and if not, what would they do? Bayin lezesha samach leiran. They would come to the bezdin that's closest to the city and present the case there. Im shamu amrulem. So we see a similar progression that we start in the local and then we keep on, bumping the case higher and higher. If they heard, they would tell them. Vim lav, they would go to Pesach Harbayis. Im shamu, if they heard, Amr lam vim lav bon lezeh shal Pesach Hazara. V'amar, they would say Kach Darashi Kach Darsh Chaverai. And when they got over there, it got a little bit more intense. There was a specific terminology that they had to explain. This is how I say, so my friends say, Kachlamati Kachlandu Chaverai. Im Shamur Amr Lem Im Lav. Elu ve'elu bandish kazagazis. And here's another nuance. In the first cases of our of the Braisa, they came to the local bezdin, they didn't know, they would invite her. Here, if they didn't know, the bezdin accompanied the dintaira to the next bezdin. Shesham Yoshem mitamid shel shachar v'atam shel ben arbayim. And let's just say, Gaz is, they sat from the morning until the night. Ubishabasa used to be Yom Tovim Yoshe Bechel. Shabbos and Yom Tov, they sat a little bit in a different location. They sat in the Chel. Nishul al Shela B'fneim, they asked the Shela in front of them. Im Shamu, if they heard Amr Lav, Im Lav, Oimdim Leminyan. And if they did not know the Psak, they would take a vote. Hamitameyem Tamu. They would take a vote. Excuse me. Im Lav, I skipped the word. Amdu Leminyan. Rabu Atameyem Tamu. If more people said it's Tamu, it's Tamu. Rabu Amtarim Taru. Misharabu Talmidei Shama Ve'elo. Shaloi Shamshu called Tzarkan. That's how everything went when Klal Yisrael was, we'll say, B'Shalom. But then what happened when there were Talmidim V'Shami Hillel who did not study appropriately? Rabu Machlokes B'Yisrael. V'Nases Taira Kishtei Tairais. And what happened was, it appeared like there's 2 different Tairais. So says the Gemara, Misham Kaisvim, V'Shalche B'Chom HaKayil Mais. From the great Sanhedrin, the Dayanim would write and send to the lower Beit Dinim, Kol Mishu Chacham V'Shafel Berach V'Das Briyois Noichem Enu Yedayin B'Iroi. They would direct, should be the Dayanim. Whoever is low, whoever is the Talmud Chacham, whoever people find agreeable, he should sit in their own town and be a Dayan. Misham Ma'alin Oisei L'Harabayis. And then from there, they would elevate a Dayan. If he was greater in his own town, they would elevate him to the Harabayis. Misham Nazara, Misham L'Lishkas HaKazis. Shalchu Mitam. Similarly, for the Bezdin HaGadol would send out Ezeu ben Olam Haba, who's a ben Olam Haba, Anvasan Ushval Berach, one who's modest and humble. Shayif Oyel Shayel Nafach. He enters, he bows, he leaves, and he bows. Vigaris. Baraisa Tedira, he learns Torah constantly. Veloi Machzik Tibus L'Nafshei. He doesn't take credit for himself. Yavu Be'Rabbani Nayo Be'Rav Ula Bar Abba. And the Rabbana place Rav Ula Bar Abba, who had all these incredible milos. Continues the Gemara on the first white line. Chazru Le'irai V'Shana. So we said after they go through the whole progression, they bump it all the way up to Lishkas Hagazis. And then this Zakin is proved wrong. So if he comes back to his own city and he learns the halacha that he always did, he's not chayiv. But if he goes and he says to the people, listen to me, then he's chayiv. Tana Rabbanan, Einoi chayiv ad sheyaseh kol yirasai. He's not chayiv unless he himself goes like his own psak, or sher lachayrim yaseh karasai, or he tells other to act like him. So says the Gemara, if he tells other people to do like him, then I understand the whole story. Originally, he's not Chayav Misa, now he is Chayav Misa. Ella asked the Gemara, Sheyasek Arasa Meikar Nami Bar Katalu. Originally as well, he should be considered someone who was Chayav Pasi according to his own reasoning. Vashta Bar Katalu. So what changed? Says the Gemara. No, I skipped. Meikar Nami Bar Katalu? Question mark. Should be the same thing. He should be considered a dead person for following his own halacha. Explains the Gemara. Ha Teinach Hechadari B'Chila V'Dam. If it was a shayla of Chila or Dam to make our lavar Katalu, Ashta Bar Katalu, that makes a lot of sense. However, if the psak is something that involved inherently a misa, then Mekar Nami Bar Katalu. Says the Gemara, Mekara Bayasra. You know what the chilik is? Originally he needed Asra. Hashtale Bayasra. And similarly, says Gemara, but wait, Mises Lo Bayasra Ma'ikla Meimar, someone convincing someone else to serve of a desire does need Asra. Mekari Amar. Now it's too late. Now, even if you were to say a reason, even if you'd have a justification, we cannot listen to him. Why? Because the Bezdin Agadol Paskin, not like him. We'll pick it up from the Mishnah, B'siyata Dishmaya.